Shalom all. Ariel Bar Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School from KosherTorah.com. Welcoming you to my first of what's going to be many YouTube videos here. We are live for, for I don't know even how long now. We've always done our videos on Facebook. But just now for the first, we're going live here on YouTube to reach out to all of our audience, both in the Jewish world as well as into the Ancient Alien crowd. So before I discuss what today's topic is, which is a roundup of AlienCon 18, Baltimore, which was the conference we just had in, again, Baltimore, this last weekend, November 9th through the 11th, 2018, just to give us a bit of a timestamp here. It was a very, very nice conference, a little bit smaller than previous ones in Santa Clarita and Pasadena, but nevertheless, a very nice one nonetheless. What was so very clear, point that I made actually to the producers of both Prometheus Entertainment, the producers of the Ancient Aliens television program, as well as to the managing directors of A&E Television Network, who are there, of course. History Channel, I believe, is related to them. I don't know all the details how. That this was more than just a conference of meeting your favorite stars. This was actually a movement, a spiritual movement, because most of the people coming there to these conferences, they're not just out to meet the stars like Giorgio, of course, is, the famous face of the show and the like, but rather people want answers to their questions. They want to know what's out there. And the producers of the show, for years now, have had me as a rabbi on the show presenting a biblical, Torah, and of course, Kabbalistic point of view in response to the ancient alien theory. And I was, I was rather impressed or amazed about how many people actually are willing to turn to what they call there the rabbi, me, for such answers. So they had me scheduled for a single lecture, just me alone on stage, to give an hour's class based upon my book, Aliens, Angels, and Demons, which, of course, is readily available on Amazon.com for those of you who want to read it. And I don't know if I'm modest or whatever, but I figured, all right, we'll have maybe 20, 30 people or so. Well, needless to say, I was rather stunned when I walk in there at 10:15 a.m. on a Sunday morning and I see, gosh, honestly, it was between 300 to 500 people sitting there waiting to hear me. Now, I've taught big classes in yeshivot before, at universities and the like, synagogues, but 300 to 500 people, who most of whom are not even Jewish, who want to come and hear the words of an Orthodox rabbi teach Torah. Wow, I was more than humbled. I was honored. But this goes to show you something very important about who and what we are here at our KosherTorah School. As you know, we are an Orthodox Jewish organization whose primary purpose is the teaching of Torah and Judaism, specifically from the prophetic Kabbalistic point of view. Or in other words, to teach experience of connection with the spiritual domains. Unlike many of my peers who will teach mysticism, Kabbalah, as a theoretical or metaphysical system of, what's out there in the worlds and this and that. No, I teach you how to experience these things for yourselves. In my opinion, that seems to be the right and best way to actually experience things. Oh, I got text popping up on the side here. I told you, I'm all brand new here in YouTube. So let's see what it says. Actually, cool. All right, somebody's actually commenting. I can actually read comments. What a surprise. Facebook was a little bit different, but okay. Like I said, I got to learn. I guess, as the saying goes, you can teach an old dog new tricks. Matter of fact, just moments ago before we went live, I had our doggy Tex, our big old German Shepherd. He was down here. I was seeing if I could try to get him to jump on, join me on camera here, but he was less than cooperative. But anyway, my point that I'm trying to get at here is, for those of you familiar with our YouTube channel here, I've posted over 100 hours of our classes from our KosherTorah School, from what I teach, from all walks of Torah and Kabbalah, from our experiential prophetic point of view. And needless to say, we do have, I'm honored, a significant following amongst my peers in our Orthodox Jewish community. But I'm also very honored that our teachings, due to their universal nature and experience of light, have been embraced warmly by many others in many other communities as well. And indeed, it is our policy here at the KosherTorah School to be open to and receive anyone and everyone who wants to come and learn Torah. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you are. I don't care what your theology or your religion or lack of it is. What difference does it make? From our point of view, we are all human souls. And I do not ascribe to a certain teaching amongst certain elements amongst my peers that there is a unique Jewish soul which separates them from all others. I don't believe that at all. I do believe what Carl Jung has taught with regards to the collective unconscious, that there are what he calls racial subdivisions within the collective unconscious. But that is only a matter of, if you will, cultural and ethnic identities at a subconscious or unconscious level. And has actually nothing to do with the nature of one's origin of soul. We all come from the same source. We all come from God. So essentially, you might be surprised that I actually have a dual audience here. Part of my audience, and a good part of them, are traditional Torah observant Jews like myself, who are interested in learning observance and Torah Judaism from the practical, experiential, prophetic point of view. And yet we serve an equal size audience of people who are not members of the Torah observant community, and very well might not be Jewish, who nevertheless recognize the value of the light and the wisdom that our traditions teach. I am honored, of course, to serve both communities and provide as much Torah for each as I can. But the reason why I'm actually emphasizing this as we begin is because, just in case somehow, somewhere, some way on the internet we can kind of bump into one another, I want each of you guys to know that the other is there. Torah observant Jew, spiritually minded individual. We're all seeking the same thing. We're all looking for the same answers. We're all seeking what we call in religion, God. But of course, as we go into our Kabbalistic teachings, we go far deeper into an enumeration and an elaboration of what that actually means. And of course, all of our teachings here at our KosherTorah School are focused exactly on that, to get you into a proper spiritual, psychological, mental, emotional, intellectual calibration of your own personal energy, so that you can be aligned, that when expanding consciousness, you can indeed experience greater and higher realities. And that, of course, is what it's all about. In the Torah tradition, we will call that the mitzvah of devikut, the actual commandment to bond with God. So, AlienCon 18, let's chat. Like I said, it was a nice bunch of people. I mean, the guys on our show, in all due respect, again, just for the record, it's not like we all agree. We don't have the same theology. We don't all ascribe to or share the same beliefs. But nevertheless, as divergent in our beliefs as we are, everyone is the nicest, sweetest, most loving bunch of people you'd ever want to meet. We have all the likes, like William Henry and his beautiful wife Claire, who do all these New Age type trips to Egypt and the like. Boy, I'm actually tempted. If I ever end up going to Egypt, I'd probably go with him. We have people like Neil Pope, and he's got his new book out. I hear he's recently been on the Tucker Carlson show. Wow, I was impressed. And of course, we have Linda Howe and so many others who provides so much wealth of information. David Childress, of course, and who else but Giorgio. Giorgio, you should know from the personal side, is one of the sweetest and nicest men you'd ever want to meet. His wife is also one of the loveliest women. She's a beautiful artist, creates all kinds of stuff. Whenever we have one of the conference, she sets up one of the booths down there. She has great stuff down there. So everybody's got a really lot of good things to say, a lot of good things to teach. Mike Barra, of course, was there with us. Every one of us, we get along almost like an extended family. And of course, we can go into the staff of Prometheus Productions itself under Kevin Burns. Kevin, of course, is the inspiration of the show. I always call him boss. He finds that funny. But I shared with him, I said, you know something, because we Kevin and I have shared and chatted privately over the years. And I asked him, what inspired you to make this show? He gets all serious with me. And he starts telling me about, his inner feelings, his inner ideas and things. I said, you were inspired. Eric von Daniken has been at the show. He is the one who started this all with his book, Chariot of the Gods, the ancient aliens theories. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about in just a minute. So all of these people are the sweetest, nicest bunch of people. Kevin was inspired because he felt something deep inside him. He wanted to bring this out. All right. There's a ancient aliens there, official souvenir from the show. It gets even better than that. We were in the audience. All right, my new rabbinite says I have to be very serious, and I tell her I'm not serious. So I don't care what people think. I'm too old a dog to care about that. There was a woman who was sitting with my new rabbinite in the crowd, and she had something on her head, and I laughed. I said, "That is so cute." She gave it to me as a gift, and afterwards, one of the people who were walking us through said, I'll get rid of that for you, Rabbi. I said, "Oh no, you won't. I like this kind of stuff." All right, so here you go. She's sitting here laughing at me. She thinks I'm crazy, but there you go. This is AlienCon. There you go. Little flippy things here. Why not? We say in the Tehillim, "Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha," serve God with joy. There's nothing wrong with being a little silly. Look at the Nanachs, the Rabbi Nachman crowd. They're the ones out there singing and dancing in the streets. I don't have any problem with that. So, something a little silly like that, why not? All right, it lightens up everything, and that's the way it's supposed to be. When we're dealing with real serious topics of this, right, as I mentioned, people like Eric von Daniken, people like Kevin Burns, who have been inspired to write books, create television programs. Kevin especially has now influenced, he's touched the lives of millions of people around the world. And I said to him years ago when this first started, I said, "Kevin, you're not creating here just a gathering of the TV stars. You're creating a movement, a spiritual movement of people who really want answers. Take this seriously." And I believe they have. And I'm honored as the old clergy there, the only rabbi, to be part and parcel, to offer whatever 2 cents I have, as they say, to actually contribute, to be of any value or help to anybody that the audience, could be of value there from what I can offer. But let's talk about this inspiration stuff. We actually had a program on Ancient Aliens. I don't remember what season it was. You're going to have to look this stuff up. And we were talking about Nikola Tesla, the famous, if you will, mad scientist of the 20th century. And I was asked, do I think he could have been, in quote, divinely inspired? And I said, well, that word divine is one of those weird words which goes through many different understandings and meanings, interpretations, and translations. So I'm going to stay away from that. But let's go back to the word inspired. According to our Kabbalistic traditions, according to many others who are there, many others who know, that which we call the human mind, right? In Hebrew, that's the soul, the neshama. It's not limited to the physical brain. That which we call the neshama, only 1/10 of it, the malchut part of the 10 sefirot of the neshama, is actually in the physical brain. And it comes through in that which we call the nefesh soul, which is the conscious soul, your consciousness. So when we transcend consciousness, we tap into the deeper self, which is called the neshama, which gives you like an elevator effect to go into the higher realms of consciousness. When you go into realms of consciousness, remember that means being aware of. So if I want to expand my consciousness from inside my house to what's outside my house, it's not a theoretical application. I'm actually going to be outside my house. I'm going to see what's outside my house. I'm going to meet people outside my house. I'm going to interact with people outside my house and be in a whole different, in quote, world. Well, my house isn't just the physical one that I'm living in or being in right now. It's the, in quote, house of the mind, which when you expand, you experience. This is what every biblical prophet did. And this is how Isaiah was able to see the seraphim in the Hechal in Isaiah chapter 6. That was a vision. Now remember, the only one who can go into the Holy of Holies was the high priest. Nowhere was Isaiah a high priest. So he was certainly not in the Holy of Holies, because even as a prophet of God, he could not go in. And if he did, he would have been struck dead. So he was in a vision quest. Ezekiel saw the great famous chariot. He too was in a trance. Now, this is the point there. I disagree with Eric von Daniken, his Chariot of the Gods, because he reads the Ezekiel chariot as being some type of a transportation device of an interstellar or intergalactic affair, and that therefore all the ancient, in quote, lowercase g gods are actually aliens. Well, I'm not going to sit and argue with people over their ideas and beliefs. But as a scholar of Hebrew, I say, in order to interpret anything from the Hebrew Bible, you not only need to know the language, you need to understand the meaning, the context, the purpose of where that language comes from. The word is milieu, to understand where it all comes down from. So essentially, when you read Ezekiel's chariot, it begins with the words, Wahi baruach, behold, I was in the spirit, meaning that he was in a meditative trance. And that the, in quote, Merkabah, the chariot that he saw, was not a physical transportation device made of metal, inhabited by little ETs, little gray guys with the big eyes and their ray guns and all the rest of this nonsense. No. If you or I would have been walking down the river Chabar and actually saw Ezekiel in the middle of this experience, you would have seen him probably sitting there in a meditative experience with his eyes closed or his eyes wide, maybe looking up to the heaven, maybe his jaw open, whatever. And you and I'd be looking up to, what are you looking at? You and I wouldn't see anything in this consciousness. But he, in expanded consciousness, saw greater things. That's always been the secret of the prophetic teachings, which, of course, is what we teach in all our courses here. In all due respect, everybody to this very day can have an experience of that Merkabah. But remember, point made very clear by Erich Newman, the professor of psychiatry, psychology at Tel Aviv University, one of the top students of Carl Jung, all experiences are subjective within the context of one's cultural environment. All archetypes are experienced within the context of one's space and time. So the vision of the Merkabah that you or I would have today is not going to be in the symbols and the imagery that meant something in ancient Babylon 2,500 years ago. In all due respect, I don't think any of us are Babylonian. I don't think any of us are 2,500 years old. At least I'm not. But, I mean, seriously, you must understand the ebb and flow, the nature of the flow of consciousness. Imagery changes, but experience, which is essence, never changes. This is why one of the mottos of our KosherTorah School is, forms divide and essence unites. And that is why we find that at a conference like this, with so many non-Jewish individuals, why I have a full house of hundreds of people wanting to come and listen to what the rabbi has to say. Again, I'm honored to be of service, to provide the wisdom and the experience that our KosherTorah School has to offer anyone who wants to partake of it. But ancient alien theory. No, I don't think that Eric von Daniken got it right in his interpretation of Ezekiel's chariot. However, that does not mean that I believe he was not inspired. Now, remember this. In our Torah tradition, we do not live in a dual world. There is no dichotomy, meaning there's no good and evil, God and devil, lies and truth, duking it out for control of your soul. We don't believe in that stuff. All right, the role of the devil is pretty much he's a faithful servant of God, like we read in the book of Job, chapter 1. So we don't have that fundamental fear factor that you'll find in many Western religions. So the concept of having extraterrestrial contact, I mean, real aliens from outer space, we don't have to jump the gun and say, oh, it's all demonic. It's all from the devil. It's all a deception. It's all the Antichrist. Well, we don't have deception or an Antichrist or a devil. None of that is relevant to us in our Torah point of view. So that's not anywhere or anything that we place focus on. So that's something that we discussed there. And of course, in my book, Aliens, Angels, and Demons, I go into this in greater detail. But again, my point is very simple. Ancient aliens, were there an advanced technological race of beings that existed in the beginning, all the way back when? Well, let's define all the way back when. Remember, Genesis chapter 1 creation story was always understood to be symbolic and not literal. You can go back into the most ancient of Judaic biblical commentaries. I mean, from the days of Jesus himself, Laman Hashem. You have the writings of Philo Judaeus, readily available to this day, been translated in English. Get the books on Amazon. You'll see. Genesis was always interpreted metaphorically, symbolically. It's never been understood literal. We have a long history of there being pre-Adamic civilizations, human life on earth prior to Adam and the stories in the Bible. So, could it be that somehow in this long lost time there were, in quote, aliens, entities that came from another world? Yeah, I'm being dramatic here in my pause. Think about it. What are angels? The Hebrew word for angel is a malach, which means a messenger. The size, shape, and forms that they take are radically different from one another. In many a time throughout the Bible, they are referred to as men. If you remember the famous story of Abraham, 3 men came to his tent. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah, 2 men go to the town of Sodom. Right? Joseph is wandering in the wilderness. He's found by a man. Jacob wrestles with an angel who is a man. All references to actual angelic encounters describe these entities as being actually human in every which way. Now, whether these encounters were in an altered state of consciousness or whether they were physical, that's already subject to different rabbinic opinions on things. But nonetheless, they're real. These entities are real. Now, understand this about angels. Number one, they're not God. God, we say, is omnipresent, meaning God is everywhere. Cool. God doesn't have to worry about getting around from point A to point B. But if you are a messenger of God, a malach, you are not omnipresent. You do have to worry about how to get from point A to point B. Now, I don't know if travel in space and time from point A to point B, these entities require some type of a transportational craft, as do we, simply because they exist in that higher, is the real third dimension of consciousness and mind. As such, they can travel through mind. Maybe we would call that astral travel, projection of thought. And maybe there is some type of vehicle, according to whatever laws of nature that are subject to or related to that dimensional plane, where in which these things are subject to such rules, rules of law, rules of natural law. Well, if it is, so be it. Who cares? What difference does it make? The point is this. There is a valid foundation for us from our Torah point of view, from the Bible, to acknowledge and to accept the validity of that which we can call ancient alien theory. With that being said, that does not mean that anything and everything being said in the, in quote, ancient alien community we accept and embrace. For example, many people today are very familiar with the works of Zecharia Sitchin, the 12th planet and the like. And he claims to have expert knowledge in the ancient Sumerian tongues and extrapolated from them all kinds of ideas and beliefs of an ancient race of extraterrestrials who are like the gods of old, called the Anunnaki, and how they're living out in the 12th planet beyond, Pluto, out there somewhere in the end recesses of our galaxy, and that they're coming back to get us. Well, I'll tell you this. I'm not an expert in ancient Sumerian, but I am an expert in Hebrew. And Mr. Sitchin, if I'm not mistaken, is Israeli. He knew Hebrew. And yet his interpretations of biblical Hebrew, I have found in some cases to be poorly interpreted, poorly translated. And I've done my research, and I have found competent, qualified Sumerian scholars who do critique Mr. Sitchin's work and dismiss them having validity. And I therefore draw the same conclusions. So I'm not worried about the Anunnaki. I don't believe they exist in the context that everyone else does today in popular opinion. Not worried about the planet Nibiru coming out of the sky or anything of the kind. You want to believe those things? It's not my job to tell you what to believe. You go believe whatever you want, right? I have people who believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. What do I care what you believe? I only care that you're a decent, moral, and good human being. As far as whatever, good stuff or bad stuff is in your head, hey, that's your business, not mine. But to the point, when we want to discuss serious issues, all right, we want to goof around, we goof around. But we want to discuss serious issues. We have to be open. We have to be honest. Carl Jung said something very, very important. He said that all, roads, if you will, all paths towards higher consciousness and awareness are always barred by violent prejudice and irrational fears. When you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. For, I don't know how many decades now, all the conspiracy theories state that our governments are concealing, covering up all kinds of knowledge and awareness of extraterrestrial activity here on Earth. Some people say, oh, it's a bunch of baloney. I don't believe it. Well, I won't tell you why, but I do. I do believe it. I know our governments are involved in some types of cover-up. They know a heck of a lot more than what you and I will ever know. And the one thing that I will tell you, yes, according to the Torah and the Kabbalistic tradition, there are a race of beings indigenous to Earth, but in a slightly parallel dimension, called amongst our brother Muslims the jinn. We call them shadim. And though they're not the fallen minions of Satan out to get your soul, they're a completely different race of entities. They do what they're doing. They have their own agendas and things. We read about them in the works of like Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid and Sefer Hasidim. You read about them in the likes of Rabbi Menachem Tzioni's books, Sifuni Tzioni, and of course Sefer Tzioni. And of course you can read about these things in Rabbi Yehuda Fatiya's book, Minchat Yehuda, which is now readily available in English. Again, Amazon.com. But anyway, these things from our Torah tradition, from our experiences in the spiritual world with an expanded consciousness, are real. The interaction with angels, like it existed in the Bible, continues to be real. So when we hear stories and legends from ancient times, or for that matter, read the stories and legends from our own Torah, Jewish, Kabbalistic traditions, and we read all kinds of strange and bizarre things, well, if we were actually able to have physically been there, take a time machine back, go hitch a ride with Doctor Who in the TARDIS, see if we can go back in time and, check out what actually happened in the old days. If we did, I think we'd be rather stunned by what we would discover. You see, our views and ideas of how we think of spirituality, the angelic worlds, heaven, is usually so fundamentally mythological that we actually divorce ourselves from the reality of the experience. Again, KosherTorah School, learning through the experiential paths. And when you experience, you just see how false all of these ideas and beliefs and external images really are. Essentially, what we know when we encounter true messengers, malachim, and we seek experience and awareness of the knowledge of true extraterrestrials. Number one, we find that extraterrestrials truly do exist. If there exists angels, they're extraterrestrial. If there exists shadim, dramatic pause, they're not extraterrestrial. They're indigenous to this earth. They might be living in the dark matter side of Earth, but they are of Earth's origin. So no shed, no jinn is actually an ET. Now, what about those little gray guys? Remember those little gray guys with the big bulbous ears? Everybody's always pointing to them. Well, you can go into the Zohar HaKadosh, into the Hashmatut, the volume 1, page 253b. You'll look it up. And go see the description there of a group called the Nashaya and how they're described, and see if that doesn't sound like these little gray guys. So when you're reading books like The Day After Roswell by Colonel Philip Corso, who apparently was in the Pentagon responsible for all the dissemination of all the actual alien technologies, he recognized very clearly in dealing with that supposed ship that it was not a intergalactic craft, short distance craft. Because we believe the Nashaya, those little gray guys, they come from inner Earth, not from out there, but in here. So they even may be indigenous to our Earth. Apparently, they lie a lot. I've read some of the literature in which they tell a whole bunch of whopping tales. Whenever you hear that, even from aliens, you should roll your eyes and go, "Oh boy, how come we couldn't get in touch with the real good aliens? We're going to get the lunatic ones." But anyway, this is the kind of stuff that goes on. We have a Masorah, a tradition in our Torah schools, which tell us about the existence of these entities. And as such, it is not a contradiction to our Torah, our path, our understanding of the Bible, the Tanakh, that these things do exist. Again, we don't always agree. I don't always agree with many of my peers on the show about different ideas, about different gods or ancient spots like Egypt and the like. But, well, listen, why not? Ezehu Hacham, that is written in Pirkei Avot. Who is wise? Halamed Mikol Adam, the one who learns from everyone. I'm always willing to learn, always willing to listen. And I encourage you to do the same. Forms divide, essence unites. If we continue to bicker and argue about our differences, our different views and beliefs, well, remember again, united we stand or divided we fall. Somebody here in text is saying that Jesus was an Egyptian. Not according to the Gospels, he wasn't, but what do I know? Okay? My point again is ancient alien theory. Yeah, there really were highly advanced races of beings. Maybe they were the Malachim spoken of in the Bible that are, in quote, created on day 5 or even day 2, according to the Midrash. Remember, days 5 and 2 are just epochs of time, not literal mentioned, on the like clock as watch as we measure time today. So, yeah, there is even in the Talmud mentioned those who dwell on specific stars. I cover all of this in my book. So, go on Amazon and you can check out Aliens, Angels, and Demons by yours truly, me. And you'll see the documented source and see what they all say. So in that respect, no. Ancient alien theory does have a lot to offer. I again believe that somehow Eric Von Daniken, Kevin Burns, one responsible for Chariot of the Gods, one for Ancient Aliens, somehow, some way, because of their desire to know truth, tapped into something very deep and archetypal. And again, in spite of the fact that I don't always agree with what Mr. Von Daniken wrote in his book, or what Kevin will put on Ancient Aliens. It's not my show. You don't have to ask me anything, of course. But nevertheless, we seek dialogue. We seek to understand. We seek to teach with truth. So if somebody says something, you can maybe prove it or disprove it. It becomes then a matter of faith. Those of us of religion know what faith is. Much of ancient alien theory today is built upon faith because it may not meet the criteria of scientific investigative proofs. But that doesn't mean that once you have scientific investigative proofs that all of a sudden aliens exist. Think about it. If we're going to be visited by a big flying saucer, just like it would be in any of our TV shows or movies, we would only find out tomorrow at 3 o'clock when they land. Do they not exist this afternoon at 3 o'clock, even though we're not aware? We don't have consciousness of them. But of course they do. And they're hanging out on their planet. And you got a whole bunch of their planet people or whatever they are in their planets. And the husbands and wives are yelling and bickering back and forth and raising the kids who are called in a hoopla just like they do on Earth. Each in their own way. And that's just the way it is. And that's the great grandiose universe that God has made. And we believe that as time is meant to come, we will integrate with those pre-Adamics, the humans who left Earth and went to the stars for safety and security, as well as the malachim, messengers, angels, who come to Earth at the behest of God. We call those the Ishim angels, and anything and everyone else. When we seek to build the bridges, I am so honored that our Kosher Torah School can provide this service to so many non-Jewish individuals who seek truth, as well as to many of my Orthodox peers who seek proper observance. Again, my message to both groups is get to know one another, and you will indeed find that we have much more in common that unites us than that which we don't share, which divides us. So that's the roundup. It was really great to be back in Baltimore with all of our friends, all the cast, and all the fans, of course. Honored and glad to be of service. Looking forward to doing it next time, which, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be AlienCon 18, June 2018, in Los Angeles. And me and our new Rabbinite Elisheva, will be there, God be willing. And looking forward to meeting all of you, working with you, sharing with you, and continuing, I pray, the good work that we do. So, Bezat Hashem, it was a great time. I say, Hodu Lashem Ki Tov, give thanks to God for His good, and we're going to continue to keep up the good work. My closing words. Back in Pasadena, actually, David Duchovny, who played Fox Mulder from the X-Files, he was there then. I think I got a picture somewhere on the website up there on my Facebook page, at least. Go check that out. But anyway, as you know, that character Fox Mulder had this big poster in his office that said, "The truth is out there." Someone had that kind of poster, and signing autographs and stuff like that, and I signed it. And I said to them, the truth, that's not true. It's not like the truth is out there. The truth is in here. And rather than look out there for something that's only going to give you confusion, look in here. Tap into, touch the divine, the path, the ladder to God, the Sulam Aliyah. And indeed, you will find that truth. You will experience it for yourselves internally. And then you will recognize it within so many others who equally are sharing this experience. And somehow, some way, a book inspired a television program, which inspired a conference, which got a rabbi, which then touched and talked with people just like you guys listening right now. So you see, this is how the hand of God works. So however God works through whatever angels that He sends, He talks to movie producers, He talks to TV producers and authors and artists of all kinds. That's just the way it is. God talks to you too. I hope and pray that you might just cultivate what you need to learn so that you can hear that voice as it speaks to you. And then, as they say, go with the flow. Alrighty, guys, that pretty much sums it up. Ancient Aliens is, of course, on the History Channel. Their live broadcasts, I believe, are on Shabbat, Friday night, so I never get to watch them. I mean, my Rebbe was asking me, which episodes am I in? I said, I don't even know. They don't tell me anything. No one ever does. But you guys go look them up. You guys go see them. And again, stay in touch with us from right here on YouTube. connect with us at our Facebook page and, of course, KosherTorah.com. My books are on Amazon.com. Our courses are available through our school, and our lessons are right here. And, of course, we always seek the support of our friends, and we thank you for that as much as we can. We're here for you because you guys are here for us. I want to thank you again for your time, and God be willing, looking forward to seeing you in our future classes. We are going to be starting a weekly live class right here on Facebook from none less than the Etz Chaim. You see it over my shoulder here. We're going to be doing Shara Kitzur Rabiyah, the 50th gate of the Etz Chaim, and I'm going to explain it to you in a way that no one else on the internet has ever done. You're going to understand the Kabbalah. You're going to be able to put it into practice. Wait and see. Wednesday nights, 8 o'clock Eastern Time will be the live class. We have the announcements out. Come join us. Looking forward to seeing you then in our future casts. All right, everybody. God bless. Have a great day. Shalom, shalom.